Hello, fellow adventurers. Today we are going on an incredible journey, not across the globe, but back in time. We are traveling millions of years into Earth's past to a world that was wilder, stranger, and much, much bigger than our own. Imagine a time when the insects were as large as birds, snakes could swallow crocodiles, and mammals were the size of small buildings. This isn't a science fiction movie. This was the reality of our planet's history. These enormous creatures, often called megafauna, roamed the lands, swam in the oceans, and flew through the skies long before any humans walked the earth. They were the kings and queens of their ancient ecosystems, perfectly adapted to a world with different climates and environments. Our planet has a long and fascinating story, and these giant prehistoric beasts are some of its most amazing characters. By studying their fossils, scientists are like detectives, piecing together clues to understand what these animals looked like, how they lived, and why they eventually disappeared. Learning about them is like opening a window to a completely different version of Earth. What did a millipede the size of a car eat for dinner? How powerful was a shark that was 3 times bigger than a great white? The answers to these questions help us appreciate the incredible diversity of life that our planet has supported over its long history, and it makes you wonder what other secrets are still buried beneath our feet. In this exploration, we will meet 10 of the most unbelievable giants from prehistoric times. We'll crawl on the forest floor with colossal bugs, swim in the deep with monster sharks, and walk the plains with mammals that would make an elephant look small. Each one of these animals tells a unique story about survival, adaptation, and the ever-changing nature of life on Earth. They faced challenges we can only imagine and lived in environments that were sometimes hotter, wetter, or had more oxygen than today. Getting to know these creatures helps us understand the powerful forces of evolution and the conditions that allow life to flourish in such spectacular and gigantic forms. So get ready to have your mind blown. The world these animals inhabited was a true land of giants. The very air they breathed and the plants they ate contributed to their massive sizes. During some periods, like the Carboniferous period, the oxygen levels in the atmosphere were much higher than they are today, which allowed insects and other arthropods to grow to terrifying proportions. In other eras, warm, stable climates allowed reptiles to reach sizes that are simply impossible in today's world. These creatures weren't just big for the sake of being big, their size was a key part of their survival strategy, helping them find food, defend against predators, and thrive in their particular corner of prehistoric Earth. Let's begin our adventure and meet the first of our incredible giants. Our first stop is the Carboniferous period, about 300 million years ago. The world was a warm, swampy jungle filled with enormous plants, but the plants weren't the only things that were huge. Imagine looking down and seeing a millipede stretching over 8 feet long, as big as a small car. This was Arthropleura. Despite its scary appearance, with its many legs and armored body, Arthropleura was a gentle giant. It was a herbivore, which means it only ate plants. It spent its days crawling through the damp prehistoric forest floor, munching on decaying plant matter. Its incredible size was possible because the air back then had much more oxygen than it does today, which helped fuel the growth of these massive arthropods. Now let's look up into the sky of that very same Carboniferous forest. Flying through the air wasn't a bird or a bat, but a giant dragonfly-like insect called Meganeura. This was not the little dragonfly you might see by a pond today. Meganeura had a wingspan of up to 2.5 feet, which is as wide as a modern eagle. It was a fearsome predator of the air, using its large, powerful wings to chase down other big insects and even small amphibians. With its strong mandibles or jaws, it could easily catch and eat its prey while flying. Like Arthropleura, Meganeura's gigantic size was only possible because of the super-oxygenated atmosphere of the Carboniferous period, which allowed its respiratory system to support such a large body. These two creatures show us how different the world was 300 million years ago. It was truly an age of giant bugs. The high oxygen levels, around 35% compared to our 21% today, acted like a superpower for these arthropods, letting them break through the size limits that constrain their relatives in the modern world. Arthropleura had very few predators to worry about, mostly because of its tough armored shell and its sheer size. It was one of the largest land invertebrates ever to have lived, a true king of the creepy crawlies. Seeing one in the wild would have been both terrifying and absolutely amazing, a reminder of how creative nature can be. Meganeura, on the other hand, ruled the prehistoric skies. It was an apex predator of its domain, a swift and deadly hunter that nothing else flying at the time could challenge. Its fossils, found in places like France and England, show incredibly detailed wing structures that prove it was a masterful flyer. Imagine a sky filled with these massive, buzzing insects, soaring between giant ferns and ancient trees. The existence of Arthropleura and Meganeura paints a vivid picture of a time when the smallest creatures of our world were some of the largest, a truly alien and wonderful chapter in the history of life on Earth. Let's fast forward in time, leaving the Carboniferous swamps behind and landing in South America about 60 million years ago. The dinosaurs had just gone extinct and new giants were rising to take their place. In the hot, humid rainforests of what is now Colombia lived the largest snake that ever existed, Titanoboa. This colossal serpent was over 42 feet long, longer than a school bus, and weighed more than a ton. It was a non-venomous constrictor, like a modern-day anaconda or boa, but on a scale that is hard to comprehend. Titanoboa was so big and powerful that it hunted giant crocodiles and massive turtles, crushing them with a force that scientists estimate was like having the weight of the Brooklyn Bridge pressing down on you. The reason Titanoboa could get so massive was the extreme heat of its environment. Being a cold-blooded reptile, its body temperature and metabolism depended on the temperature of its surroundings. The hot tropical climate of the Paleocene epoch allowed Titanoboa to maintain the high metabolism needed to support its enormous body. It was the undisputed top predator of its ecosystem, a silent hunter that would lie in wait in the murky waters of ancient rivers, waiting for its next giant meal to come within striking distance. Its discovery completely changed our understanding of what was possible for snakes, and a testament to how life can adapt to fill ecological niches left empty by extinction events. Now let's travel back in time again, but this time to the Carboniferous period of Scotland, around 340 million years ago, to meet another fearsome arthropod. Lurking on the forest floor was Pulmonoscorpius, which means breathing scorpion. This was no ordinary scorpion. It grew up to 2.5 feet long, about the size of a house cat. With its large pincers and a powerful, venomous stinger at the end of its tail, Pulmonoscorpius was a formidable predator. It likely hunted other large arthropods and even small early vertebrates, using its venom to subdue its prey before tearing it apart with its claws. It was a nightmare creature brought to life. Just like Arthropleura and Meganeura, the giant size of Pulmonoscorpius was made possible by the high oxygen levels of the Carboniferous period. This rich atmosphere allowed its simple respiratory system, which relies on tubes to deliver oxygen directly to its tissues, to be much more efficient, fueling its growth to monstrous proportions. Finding a fossil of this giant scorpion gives us a glimpse into the dangers that lurked in the ancient undergrowth. It reminds us that even familiar creatures like scorpions have an ancient and sometimes terrifying history. The existence of both Titanoboa and Pulmonoscorpius shows that giants came in all shapes and sizes, from slithering serpents to venomous eight-legged predators. Now let's dive into the prehistoric oceans, which were home to some of the most terrifying predators of all time. From about 23 to 3 million years ago, the oceans were ruled by Megalodon, the largest shark that ever lived. This was a true sea monster. Growing up to 60 feet long, 3 times the size of a great white shark, Megalodon was the ultimate apex predator. Its teeth were as big as a human hand, and it had the most powerful bite of any animal ever known, strong enough to crush a car. With a bite force of nearly 20 tons, it could easily crunch through the thick bones of the large whales that made up a major part of its diet. Megalodon lived in oceans all over the world, from the warm coastal waters to the deep sea. Its massive size meant it needed to eat a huge amount of food every day, which is why it targeted the biggest animals in the sea. Fossils of whale bones have been found with huge bite marks that perfectly match the giant teeth of a megalodon. This incredible shark reigned for millions of years, but it eventually went extinct. Scientists believe a combination of a cooling climate and the decline of its large whale prey led to the downfall of this oceanic king, leaving the oceans for smaller predators to take over. Its fossilized teeth are still found today, a powerful reminder of this magnificent beast. Let's travel even further back, to the Cretaceous period about 110 million years ago, to the rivers of what is now North Africa. Here we would find a crocodilian so massive it was nicknamed Super Croc. Its real name is Sarcosuchus. This giant was not your average crocodile. It grew up to 39 feet long, twice the length of the largest saltwater crocodiles today. and weighed over 8 tons. Its head alone was 6 feet long, and its jaws were lined with over 100 thick, powerful teeth designed for gripping and crushing. It was a true river monster, an ambush predator of epic proportions. Sarcosuchus lived in vast river systems and likely ate large fish, and any dinosaurs that were unlucky enough to come to the water's edge for a drink. It would lie submerged and hidden, waiting for the perfect moment to explode from the water and drag its prey to a watery grave. One of its most interesting features was a strange, bulbous growth on the end of its snout called a bulla. Scientists think this might have been related to its sense of smell, or used to make deep, booming sounds for communication. Sarcosuchus shows that just as sharks reached incredible sizes in the ocean, their reptilian cousins became true giants in the freshwater rivers of the dinosaur age. Not all prehistoric giants were as long as a bus or as heavy as a truck. Some were just monstrously large for their kind. Let's journey to Madagascar about 70 million years ago during the late Cretaceous period. Hopping around the landscape was a frog so big and mean it was nicknamed the devil frog. Its scientific name is Beelzebufo. This was no ordinary pond frog. Beelzebufo was over 16 inches long and weighed around 10 pounds, making it the largest frog ever known to exist. It was a stout, powerfully built amphibian with an incredibly wide mouth and a very strong bite, earning it another nickname, the Pac-Man frog from hell. Unlike most frogs today that eat insects, Beelzebufo was a voracious predator that ate much larger prey. Based on its size and powerful jaws, paleontologists believe it would have eaten small animals, lizards, and possibly even baby dinosaurs that were small enough to fit into its enormous mouth. It was likely an ambush predator, sitting camouflaged and motionless, waiting for an unsuspecting animal to wander by. The discovery of Beelzebufo in Madagascar was a surprise, as its closest living relatives are the horned frogs of South America, suggesting that a land bridge may have once connected the two continents millions of years ago, allowing these creatures to cross. Now, let's jump forward to a more recent time, the Pleistocene epoch, which lasted from about 2 million to 10,000 years ago. Roaming the plains of North and South America was a mammal that looked like a giant armored tank. This was Glyptodon. Related to modern armadillos, Glyptodon was about the size of a Volkswagen Beetle car, measuring around 10 feet long and weighing up to 2 tons. It was covered in a thick, protective shell made of more than 1,000 bony plates fused together. This dome-shaped shell was so strong that it could likely protect the animal from the formidable predators of the time like saber-toothed cats. Despite its fortress-like appearance, Glyptodon was a peaceful herbivore, spending its days slowly moving across the grasslands and munching on plants. For extra defense, it had a formidable weapon, a long, armored tail that ended in a spiky club. It could swing this tail with great force to ward off any predator brave enough to attack it. Glyptodon was a perfect example of defensive evolution, a walking fortress that was almost impossible to defeat. Sadly, these incredible creatures went extinct around 10,000 years ago, likely due to a combination of climate change at the end of the last ice age and hunting by early humans who had arrived in the Americas. When we think of giant land animals, dinosaurs often come to mind, but mammals have had their own colossal representatives. Let's travel to Asia between 34 and 23 million years ago to meet the largest land mammal that ever lived, Paraceratherium. This enormous creature was a distant hornless relative of the modern rhinoceros, but it looked more like a gigantic muscular horse with a long neck. It was truly immense, standing about 16 feet tall at the shoulder, tall enough to look into a second-story window, and weighing up to an astonishing 20 tons. That's as heavy as 3 or 4 large elephants combined, making it a true heavyweight champion of the land. Paraceratherium was a herbivore, using its long neck and flexible upper lip to browse for leaves and twigs high up in the trees. Much like a giraffe does today, its massive size was a great defense against predators, as few animals would have been brave or strong enough to take on a full-grown adult. It roamed vast forested areas across Asia, from China to the Balkans, dominating the landscape for millions of years. Its eventual extinction is thought to be linked to long-term climate change, which caused the forests it depended on to shrink and be replaced by open grasslands, reducing its available food supply and ultimately leading to the demise of this magnificent giant. Now let's move to South America and go forward in time, to a period from about 5 million to 10,000 years ago. Here we would find another mammalian giant, but one that moved at a much slower pace. This was Megatherium. the giant ground sloth. While its modern relatives are small tree-dwelling creatures, Megatherium was the size of an elephant. It could reach up to 20 feet in length when standing on its hind legs and weighed up to 4 tons. It was one of the largest land mammals of its time, a slow-moving but powerful beast that lumbered across the landscapes of the Americas during the Ice Age. Megatherium was primarily a herbivore, using its huge size and strength to its advantage. It could stand up on its powerful hind legs and use its long arms and giant curved claws to pull down entire tree branches to eat the leaves. While those claws were great for getting food, they also served as formidable defensive weapons against predators like saber-toothed cats. For a long time, scientists thought it was a gentle plant eater, but some new evidence suggests it might have occasionally scavenged meat as well. Like Glyptodon, the giant ground sloth disappeared around 10,000 years ago, another victim of the climate shifts and human hunting pressures that marked the end of the last ice age. The 10 creatures we've met so far are just a small sample of the incredible megafauna that once roamed our planet. The term megafauna simply refers to very large animals, and nearly every period of Earth's history has had its own cast of giants. The existence of these massive beasts was not a coincidence. It was the result of specific environmental conditions that allowed, and sometimes even favored, enormous size. For example, the high oxygen levels of the Carboniferous period were a critical factor for the giant insects, while the warm, stable climates of the Mesozoic era allowed reptiles like dinosaurs and Sarcosuchus to reach unparalleled proportions. After the dinosaurs vanished, mammals took over, and an evolutionary arms race began. In a world full of new opportunities and empty ecological niches, many mammal groups evolved to giant sizes. This trend, known as Cope's rule, suggests that animal lineages tend to evolve toward larger body sizes over time. A bigger body can help an animal defend itself from predators, compete for food and mates, and survive harsh conditions like cold weather. For herbivores like Paraceratherium and Megatherium, being huge meant they could reach more food and were too big for most predators to attack. For predators like Megalodon, a larger size meant they could hunt bigger, more energy-rich prey. The world these megafauna inhabited was profoundly different from ours. Continents were in different positions, sea levels were higher or lower, and the climate was often much warmer and more uniform across the globe. Vast, shallow seas covered areas that are now dry land, and lush rainforests grew near the poles. These environments were rich in resources and could support the massive amounts of food required to sustain such large animals. The Titanoboa's existence, for instance, tells us that its habitat in ancient Colombia must have been significantly hotter than it is today, providing a clue for scientists who study past climates and how they have changed over geological time. Studying these lost giants is more than just a fascinating look into the past. It also provides crucial insights into the principles of biology and evolution. The fossils of these creatures are like blueprints that show how life adapts to different environmental pressures. The armored shell of Glyptodon is a masterclass in defense, while the powerful wings of Meganeura demonstrate the pinnacle of insect flight. By understanding why these animals grew so large and what led to their eventual extinction, we can learn valuable lessons about the fragility of ecosystems and the profound impact that climate change can have on even the most dominant species on the planet. The giants of the prehistoric world may be long gone, but their legacy lives on and continues to shape the world we know today. These enormous animals were not just passive inhabitants of their environments, they were powerful ecological engineers. Massive herbivores like Paraceratherium and the giant ground sloths would have had a huge impact on the vegetation. By pulling down branches, clearing paths through dense forests, and dispersing seeds over vast distances in their dung, they actively shaped the structure of the landscapes they lived in. The open grasslands and park-like woodlands of past eras may have been maintained in part by the constant activity of these mega-herbivores. Similarly, the massive predators played a crucial role in maintaining the balance of their ecosystems. A predator like Megalodon, by hunting large whales, would have controlled their populations and influenced their behavior and migration patterns. This, in turn, would have had cascading effects down the food chain. The extinction of these top predators would have dramatically altered the structure of marine communities. The disappearance of the megafauna at the end of the last ice age, for example, is thought to have led to significant changes in plant communities, as the large herbivores that once controlled them were no longer present. These ancient interactions still echo in the ecosystems of today. The story of these giants also serves as a powerful lesson about extinction. The reasons for their disappearance are varied and complex. Some, like Megalodon, fell victim to gradual climate change and the loss of their primary food sources. Others, like the insects of the Carboniferous, disappeared when the environmental conditions that allowed their great size, the high oxygen levels, changed. For the more recent megafauna of the Ice Age, like the Megatherium and Glyptodon, their extinction seems to be a combination of a rapidly changing climate and the arrival of a new, highly effective predator, humans. This shows how vulnerable even the biggest and toughest species can be to environmental shifts. Learning about this history helps us put our current world into perspective. The Earth we live on is just one snapshot in a very long movie, and the cast of characters has changed dramatically over time. The giants of the past remind us of the incredible potential of evolution and the sheer diversity of life that our planet can support under the right conditions. Their fossils are a treasure trove of information, helping us reconstruct ancient worlds and understand the deep history of life. They spark our imagination and fuel our curiosity, encouraging us to explore, to question, and to appreciate the amazing story of life on Earth. Our journey back in time has shown us a world that defies belief, a world ruled by giants. From the 8-foot millipede Arthropleura to the bus-sized snake Titanoboa, and from the ocean-dominating Megalodon to the elephant-sized sloth Megatherium, these creatures push the limits of our imagination. They are a testament to the incredible power of evolution to produce life forms of staggering size and diversity. Each one was perfectly adapted to its unique time and place in Earth's history, thriving in conditions that were vastly different from our own. They were the superstars of their age, the magnificent products of millions of years of evolutionary trial and error. The stories of these 10 beasts are more than just amazing facts, they are windows into lost worlds. They teach us that our planet is in a constant state of flux. Climates change, continents drift, and life must continually adapt or face extinction. The very conditions that allowed these giants to exist, the high oxygen levels, the warm global temperatures, the abundant food sources, eventually changed, leading to their decline. Their downfall reminds us that no species, no matter how big or powerful, is guaranteed to last forever. Life is a dynamic and ever-shifting tapestry, and the patterns of today are built upon the threads of countless yesterdays. Learning about these prehistoric giants gives us a deeper appreciation for the world we live in now and the long, complex history that led to it. It shows us that the animals we share the planet with today are the descendants of a long line of survivors, the inheritors of a world once walked by true monsters. The fossils of these megafauna are like storybooks written in stone, waiting for us to read them and learn their lessons. They challenge us to think about our own place in Earth's history and the impact we are having on the planet and its incredible biodiversity. So the next time you see a tiny millipede, a small snake, or a common frog, remember their gigantic ancestors. Remember the world they came from, a world of epic proportions that was once just as real as our own. The story of life on Earth is the greatest adventure story ever told, filled with incredible characters and dramatic plot twists. And the best part is there are still so many more chapters to discover, buried deep in the rock, waiting for the next generation of explorers to uncover. The age of giants may be over, but their incredible story will inspire and fascinate us for a long time to come.